Hi everybody, it's lovely to be back with you. I don't know if you feel the same, but it's absolutely freezing, isn't it, at the moment? And I was very struck by a speaker that we had who came to have a chat with all the Key Stage 1 children, I think reception year, and she was called Emma from the Surrey Wildlife Trust. And she was telling us the fascinating life of the hedgehogs in Surrey. And you know they have to find 6 or 7 gardens each evening before they've had enough to eat and then find somewhere safe to sleep for the night. And you know, it made me think during these very wintry days and nights whether there's a story that could just remind us of the responsibility to look after all the wildlife in our own gardens. So I was delighted to find this book called One Snowy Night. So if you're sitting comfortably, it'll give me great pleasure to read it with you now. Oh, it's cold in the park in winter, but Percy the park keeper doesn't mind. He puts on his warm coat and his big scarf, and he wears 2 pairs of woolly socks inside his Wellington boots. Percy likes to be out in the fresh air, a bit like me when I have my well-being walks. Now in the middle of the park there's a little hut, and this is where Percy lives. And when it gets too cold to be outside, Percy goes into his hut where it's all nice and cosy and warm. Now the animals who live in the park, they all know Percy's hut. Every day he shares his lunch with them. That's a lovely thing, isn't it? Now one winter's night it was so cold it began to snow. Great big snowflakes fell past the window of Percy's hut. "Brrr," said Percy. "I think I'll need an extra blanket tonight." So he made himself some hot cocoa and he got ready for bed. Suddenly, Percy heard a tapping sound. There was somebody at the door. Now who can that be at this time of night, thought Percy. So he went to the door and he looked out. There on the step was a squirrel. It looked very cold and miserable. "I can't get to sleep, Percy," said the squirrel. "My bed is full of snow." "Oh dear," said Percy. "Oh well, never mind, I've got plenty of room for 2. So the squirrel snuggled down next to Percy, and he soon began to feel nice and warm. It was the door again. Now who can that be, thought Percy. And standing outside were 2 shivering rabbits. "It's freezing," said one rabbit, "and we're frozen," said the other. "Oh, you poor things," said Percy. "Come in and warm up." So the rabbit squeezed into the bed next to Percy and the squirrel, so there wasn't much room now. "Could you face the other way, Percy?" asked the squirrel. "Your tail is tickling my nose." "Oh dear," said Percy. "There's someone else at the door now." It was a fox. He looked very cold and hungry, and he said, "Can I come in too?" So Percy scratched his head, and he thought for a minute. "Well, if you promise to behave," he said. "I promise," said the fox, and he squeezed into the bed next to all the other animals. Bump! Oops! The squirrel fell out. "Who did that?" asked the squirrel crossly. "Good gracious," said Percy. "It's the door again." This time Percy had quite a surprise, because there on the step was a badger, 2 ducks, a hedgehog, and a whole family of mice. They all wanted a bed for the night. Look, there they all are. Ah, poor old Percy, and poor old Percy's bed. The animals pushed and shoved and rolled around the bed, but there was just not enough room for them all. Soon the bed covers ended up in a big tight ball. Then bump! The covers rolled right off the bed, and everybody fell onto the floor. "Oh dear," said Percy. "This won't do at all. My bed is just too small." And suddenly, one of the mice pricked up his ears. "What's that noise?" he squeaked. Everybody listened hard. Now they could all hear it. It was like a scratching and a scraping sound. It seemed to be coming from underneath them. "There's something moving under the floor," whispered Percy. The animals looked frightened, and the mice all started to squeak at once. "Oh dear, what could it be? It might be a monster with fierce claws and sharp teeth." The noise grew louder and louder, and then one of the floorboards began to move. Look out, it's coming up through the floor." Suddenly there was a loud creak, and "Help!" cried the animals, and they all ran to hide. But Percy wasn't frightened. He started to chuckle. Ah, he laughed out loud. A small dark head was sticking up through the floorboards. "This isn't a monster," said Percy. "It's a mole." "Look, I'm very sorry to burst in like this," said the mole. "I knocked on the door, but nobody heard me." Percy helped the mole up through the hole in the floor. He sat him on his hot water bottle. That's nice, isn't it, to get warm? And he put the floorboard back. "It's all right, everyone," he called. "You can all come out now." But nobody moved. Nobody stirred. Nobody wanted to come out. The squirrel was tucked away in the pocket of Percy's dressing gown. The hedgehog was in his coat. The fox, the rabbits, the badger and the ducks were all safely hidden away. Look, you can see them all there. And you know, the mice had even squeezed themselves into Percy's slippers. That's a bit cheeky, isn't it? There they are, but everyone had found a cosy bed. "Well, I never," said Percy. Percy yawned, and he snuggled down in his own bed once again. "Ah, that's better," he said. "Now I got plenty of room, and a little bit more to spare for a little mole." Ah, there you go. Isn't that a great story? Well, I hope you really enjoyed that, and during these last weeks of winter, hope you all keep wrapped up, and remember to look out for the wildlife in your gardens and make sure that you give them a helping hand if they need it. So thanks for being with me. Enjoy the rest of the day, and enjoy the book, and more to come. Thank you. Take care and God bless.